6 feet.
6 feet.
All right.
How's everybody doing today? I'm CMS Sergeant Jet. I'm stationed here at Dyess as a first sergeant. I've been in the military for 19 years. Previous to being a first sergeant, I was a TAC-P and a boom operator on a KC-10.
I'm Master Sergeant Tester. Been in the Air Force for 14 years. Jet engine mechanic, 286. Been stationed at Ellsworth. Worked on the B-1 there. Stationed at Nellis. Worked on the A-10. Stationed at Aviano. Worked on the F-16. Just finished up an instructor job here. And when the stop movement has been lifted and I'm cleared, I'm going to be a first sergeant at Altus.
All right. So we're going to be talking about Leading Through Crisis by John C. Maxwell. And hopefully you guys get something out of this. This is a great lesson, especially with what we have going on right now. So we'll just jump straight into the lesson.
Okay. On behalf of the top three, we want to wish you all well. I know this is a difficult time. We hope everyone is doing good, and we're all going to get through this together. The first lesson, I know there's no slides going. We had some technical difficulties, but this is the first time. So we're all going to learn and grow, and we'll get it better on the next time around. The first lesson, defining a crisis. This is broken down in 3 different languages. The Webster's Dictionary term says a crisis is an intense time of difficulty or danger. The medical professionals say that it's a turning point at which a decision must be made. And then combination, what John says is a crisis is an intense time of difficulty requiring a decision that must be a turning point. And I feel like what we have going on today definitely fits that definition. We don't know how long this crisis is going to last. We can't go on Google and punch in, when will the coronavirus end? There's just no end in sight. We don't know how long this is going to last. But what we do know is that a crisis is quite common. And in the slides, you can see all the different types of crises that we laid out. In 2000, we had Y2K. 2001, everyone knows about 9/11. We experienced it, changed the world forever, the way that we travel. Also, anthrax. 2002 was West Nile. 2003 was SARS. 2005 was the bird flu. 2006 was Ebola. 2008, the Great Recession. A lot of people lost money, houses, jobs. 2009 was the swine flu. 2010, BP oil. The Mayan calendar, 2012. 2013, North Korea threat. 2014 was Ebola. 2015 was ISIS. 2016 was Zika. And then today, 2020, is the coronavirus. As humans, we all have a tendency that it's never been this bad before. And we're the only ones that have ever experienced this. A perspective is that this is not our first crisis, and it's not going to be our last. But we will get through this. Is it going to be difficult? Yes. Will things be different on the other side? I believe so. But I think that a crisis humbles us, and I think we're all going to be stronger on the other side of this for experiencing it. Looking at all the crises that we have overcome, this too shall pass. And an application is decide where you will turn for information when defining reality in times of a crisis. Think of ways that you as a leader will get helpful, accurate data and insight from trusted sources. The first one is WHO, the World Health Organization. You can go on their website and they're going to give you a breakdown of the coronaviruses infected throughout each country. Also, there's Mythbusters on there under the resources. You want to check that out. They bust the myth that coronavirus can't be spread in the heat. And also, they say that alcohol kills the coronavirus. That's not true. Check it out. It's on the Mythbusters. Another website is the CDC, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. There's going to be preventative measures stopping the spread of coronavirus on that website. And they're also going to break it down by state. And then next is the AbileneTX.gov. That website is going to give a daily update on coronaviruses here locally in Abilene and Taylor County. So today, as of April 24th, we have 191 cases. It's not slowing down. It's still picking up. So our leadership challenge to y'all is stay strong and steady through this duration. Let's do our part to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Practice social distancing, wash our hands, wear our face masks when we're supposed to, and really think about other people that may be affected differently. People that have underlying health conditions that could pass away from this virus. We want to make sure that we're doing our part and not spreading it. So wrapping up, defining a crisis. Sergeant Jett, I got a few questions for you.
Yeah, shoot for it.
So what experience do you have in leading during a time of crisis?
I can use the example we're living through right now. Being the first sergeant for the ops group, we're still responsible for having mission-ready airmen, mission-ready aircraft, and being able to meet the needs of global strike as far as mission sets. So being able to get the message out to the guys on the importance of what we're doing and how to maintain a level head, I think right now is the perfect time to be a leader, and especially in a crisis situation. I think right now it shows what we're made of and how we're going to react.
What is one lesson from that experience that you can share with the group?
That our background dictates what a crisis is and what we think a crisis is. So we just have to take that into account when we're dealing with our troops and talking to people around bases. That, just because I don't believe something is a crisis doesn't mean it's not a crisis to someone else. And being able to say, okay, it's a crisis to them, how do I help them through this, even though I don't think it's a crisis. I think that's more important right now, for everybody not knowing what's going on or not seeing the end insight. So I think that's important.
All right, everyone's has had different experiences, and that's going to make them the person that they are.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap up defining a crisis. And then, Sergeant Jett, you're going to take us through battling distractions during a crisis.
Yes. So battling distractions during a crisis. Why is this important? Because a crisis is a distraction for a leader. It can be. It pulls you away from your focus, and it pushes it towards something else. So something else you were doing that was important at that time a crisis happens, your natural tendency is to stop. And whatever happens right there is the most important thing. So it pulls you away from what you were doing. And when leaders get distracted from what they're doing, we lose sight on reality, we lose touch, and we fall prey to the anxiety that follows. Like, okay, now my timeline is messed up. I was used to doing this, this, and this, but because this popped up, now I can't do this, this, and this. And then you start to fall behind, and it's anxiety. And that affects everybody as a leader. If you're off your game, everybody sees you're off your game, or you're running around with your head cut off, like that's what your guys are going to see, and that's how they're going to start reacting to. So major takeaways is for the battling a distraction during a crisis is just because the sky's falling for one person doesn't mean it's falling for everybody, and you have to take that into account. Like we were talking about previously, like just because something is a crisis for you doesn't mean it's a crisis for everyone. It's just something else for people to take away. And some of the things that happen during a crisis for a leader, the mind wandering, I call it the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Like you're always trying to figure out exactly what you could have done, should have done, when in all actuality it's a crisis. You're not going to be able to know everything that's going to happen and respond accordingly. The other two things are negative thinking and the uncertainty of the anxiety, right? And right now, it's perfect for this negative thinking. Man, everybody's getting sick. Somebody's going to die, pushing through that and realizing that we don't have the information, like you said, to go into Google and say, hey, this is over today, or in 2 weeks it'll be over. So I think the challenge for the leaders is to stay focused on whatever your task is at that time. And I think that eases your transition to start fixing those problems and maintaining being a good leader in a crisis. Some of the ways that Maxwell describes battling a distraction during a crisis, and the big thing is having a plan. Like the best plan that you can have for that situation. Like I said, you're not going to have a plan for everything that happens, but having a basic plan of, hey, this is what I need to do today. This is what I want to do today, and that's the basis of battling distractions during a crisis. But I do have some questions for you.
All right.
So one of the 3 distraction traps that John shared, which are you most susceptible to in times of crisis? And that's the mind wandering, the negative thinking, or the uncertain anxiety.
For me, I would have to say uncertain anxiety right now.
Okay.
Just because, like you said, it's fear of the unknown. You're not really quite sure what's going to happen in the future. So family and I, wife and I, kids, we're supposed to be PCSing, and we don't know if that is in fact going to happen. So
Okay.
there's a lot of uncertainty there that causes a little bit of fear.
Yeah.
However, to me, there's two different types of fear. You have negative fear and you have positive fear. When you're negative, I feel you tend to withdraw and avoid the scenario or circumstance.
Okay.
And then you have positive fear, and that's what I like to use. So when you have that positive fear, it allows you to be creative and find a solution, and not fall into a negative mind trap or mind wandering, and just be positive, right? Because it's a mindset. It's 10%, 90%. 10% what happens to me, 90% how I react.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So in this crisis that we have right now, or any crisis, what would be the best advice that you can give to a leader to kind of pull themselves together, get a level head, and move forward?
My advice to anybody that needs to pull themselves together, if I find myself falling into that trap, I tend to focus on, instead of me, focus on we, right?
Okay.
Because it's not just about me. Yes, I'm missing out on family members visiting. I'm missing out on vacation. I'm missing out on education opportunities. Some people may have spouses deployed. You may be deployed. We're all giving up something. We're all sacrificing something during this experience. And I feel like when you can put that into perspective, that that's not just about you, it's about everyone else as well. It also changes your mindset that way.
Okay.
Also, if you need to pull yourself together, and take this time to invest in yourself. I feel like there's a lot of additional time. Everyone's getting a little bit more time than usual, and time is a hard commodity to come by. So take the time right now, that if you have it, to invest in yourself. The analogy I like to use is being on an airplane. When the stewardess is giving the emergency procedures, and she's telling you that if there's an emergency and the oxygen mask falls down, put the oxygen mask on you first before you put it on anybody else.
Okay, I like that.
But you look around, you look at your family, and you're like, well, wait, I want to be able to put theirs on first. But if you can't breathe in the oxygen, how are you going to help somebody else? Same concept with your airmen. If your well is empty and they're thirsty, you can't give them any water to drink. You need to make sure that your well is full and you're investing in yourself, so when the Air Force kicks back on, we're ready to roll.
Drop some bombs on that one, man. You did.
Let's do it.
Yep. Yeah, you did that. Yeah. Transitioning from that to the third lesson, which is the characters in crisis.
Character in a crisis. Character is an important topic because character is the foundation to leadership. It's our choices that we make every day that make our character. In the book, Forces of Character by Chad Hennings, he describes character as thousands of tiny choices you make throughout your life. Every day is what builds you as a character. And during a crisis, our character is revealed. A lot of people think that sometimes during a crisis, you're built. When you're not built in a crisis, your character is revealed in a crisis. It shows what's on the inside of a leader. And it puts the ability to adapt to shifting circumstances on display. So a prime example is our Air Force leadership, right? During these times, they're giving us rapid information, and they're making all these policy changes for the people. They're trying to put safety first so that everyone can be safe. And when you do that, when you put your people first in an organization, you're going to succeed. You're going to thrive. Same thing with the Texas Roadhouse CEO. He forgoed his annual salary for a whole year so that his workers could be paid, so his workers wouldn't lose their jobs, their families could survive and get food. And when you put your people first, that's just another example. On the flip side of that, they discussed leaders who start to complain and blame others when things start to go wrong. And if you're in a leadership position, you can't blame and lead at the same time. You have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You have to be the one that's providing hope to the individuals that you're leading. But John talks about how if you do find yourself falling into these traps, you can change. Because like we talked about, character is developed every day.
Yeah.
So you have your foundational phase where, hey, this is the person who I am. And then you have a transformational phase where this is the person I want to be. And right, and you can either be buried during this crisis or you can be built. So the choice is yours, right? So character is at the heart of our development, not just as leaders, but as human beings. being bigger on the inside than on the outside. So our application is assess your personal perspective right now. Are you thinking positively or have negative thoughts crept in? Think of ways in how you can stay positive or change your negative thoughts. So our leadership challenge is turning adversity into advantage. You can't rewrite your past, but you can rewrite your future, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to come in. I got a couple of questions I'm going to ask you. Character in a crisis.
Yes. Shoot.
Do you agree with the statement, crisis reveals a leader's character rather than makes it?
I firmly believe that. I think that, like you stated earlier, you are who you are. I don't think you're going to go and be a different person because something happens. Like, you're always going to go back to what you're comfortable with, right? What you know you can do. So I do think that you expose what's really behind you as a leader during a crisis. So yes, I do agree with that one.
So how can a leader keep a learning posture during a crisis?
I like to use like the Air Force as an example, like for aircraft maintenance or TOs or job guides, right? We don't come up with bright ideas before something happens. So something bad happens and we're like, hey, let's prevent this from happening again and put this into a book, or let's make a change to the AFI or something like that. So it's lessons learned that you have to take into account. So you have to take a step back from the crisis and say, all right, what are we learning during this crisis? Right now we're learning, hey, how do we continue this mission here at Dyess with Midman in the ops? Like, how do we do that? And let's figure out ways to do it and come up with plans and different COAs that we can use to still meet the intent of the Air Force. And I think that's how you stay in that learning posture, is you use what the environment is giving you right now to build a better product later on. And I think that's the most important thing that we can do right now.
Perfect. That wraps up character in a crisis. Now you're going to bring it home.
Yeah, with the real leadership in crisis. All right, so this is the last teaching point for John Maxwell for leadership in crisis, right? And I break it down really quickly into three different things in time of a crisis, right? That a leader can do in a time of crisis. One of them is show up early, meaning staying aware of the situation, having the most up-to-date information that you can get on the situation, being honest to the people that work for you. Like, they need that because they're not going to get all the information. They're not going to have the same meetings. You're the leader. You have to set that tone. Like, hey, you guys can trust me and know that we're trying to do things the right way. All right. Show up with clarity. Like, hey, this is the goal. This is the mission. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to accomplish, and getting them to buy into that. And you can do that as a leader by being honest, forthright with everything that you're doing and what's going on, good, bad, and ugly. Sometimes you have to call the ugly baby a ugly baby, right? But I think people will respect that more when they hear that information, almost that feedback, you know. And then the last thing is show up with hope, meaning that you have faith, or he says that you can make things better, or that you want to make things better. And I think that's important for troops to see, like, hey, I might not be able to solve all these issues, but if there's some small issues that I can handle here and I knock those out, like, at least we're knocking something out and it remains positive. And that's what you have to do. You have to remain positive for your people. And how to apply this real leadership in a crisis. John talks about posting 5 values on a wall, and that you're going to see every day, and everybody knows, like, hey, these are the things we need to accomplish. And for us in the ops group, obviously I'm using our ops groups as examples. Our AFB shop builds, or they sew the mask, right? So if AFE leadership puts on a board when they walk in every day, hey, we're going to get 25 masks done today. Everybody that comes in to work is tracking, like, hey, our goal today is to get 25 masks out. And this provides some sort of safety barrier for people in Abilene's community. Like, that's the goal that you want to shoot for, and that's that they know that goal, and this is what we need to do every day. And I think that's important for them. And the last thing, which is one of the most important things, is you have to stay who you are. You are the person you are, right? As Jay-Z would say, you can't change a player's game in the 9th inning, right? You are who you are that whole games, right? You know, like, so you have to stay true to who you are. and as a leader, that's really important, really important. So I did want to ask you some questions, just based on this little lesson right here. What do you think it means for a leader to show up early in a crisis?
Okay. So what I think it means for a leader to show up early in a crisis is being the first one there. Not only just showing up and being visible, but showing up early, being the first one there, asking, how are you doing? What do you need from me?
Okay.
Like you said, providing hope. So when you're providing hope to the individual and you're providing that communication, that it's honest. That, hey, you know, this might be unclear to me, but I don't know everything. And it's okay not to know everything as a leader. We don't know everything, but what we will do is we will seek the information for you. And that's another thing, you want to provide optimism to them, right? Because if we're all battling this thing together, we have to be able to show optimism that we're all going to get through this.
Yeah.
We don't know when, but it's going to eventually be done, and we're going to get through this together. And that just shows perseverance inside yourself that, hey, I can get through this, you can get through this, we can get through this together. And then that's showing empathy, that you're human, right? We all have feelings, we all feel, and we together, when you can express that, it shows authenticity, right?
Okay.
And that's what people want.
Yeah.
People want people to be real and be authentic. And I think that's how you definitely show up early with those few things.
Okay. How does it benefit a leader to keep thinking and decisions aligned with values?
So decisions and values aligned, thinking decisions and values aligned. All right. So to me, this whole crisis has given me a time to slow down.
Okay.
And really think and internalize and self-reflect on things, right? What matters? What doesn't matter? And really focus on family and friends. And what you were talking about, when your actions and your thoughts and your feelings align with your values, that strengthens your character. And when your character is strengthened, that allows trust within your team.
Yes.
And trust is the foundation of leadership.
Yep, those are real good answers. You speak very well.
Hey, you too. Great job.
So, want to ask, like, these are some things that you want to ask yourself, and these are questions for you guys out here, right? Think about this, and you come up with your own answers, right? What would I love to do now that I have more time, right? We all can think about that. Like, hey, every day we're working. Man, I wish I had some downtime. You always hear that complaint from members in the military. Like, man, if you could give us more downtime, if you can give us more downtime. Like, well, we have downtime. You just can't go anywhere. You know. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And then what should I do now that I have time? You know, and that goes back to what you touched on with knocking out school that you can knock out. If you can knock your CCAF out, if you can get a certification online, it can be anything. Reading books. Just get better. Just get better with this time. Use it, and if you want to just play video games all day, and you do that too. I know guys that do that, and they're successful. But just take advantage of that downtime that you have.
Senior Master Sergeant, I feel like you were calling me out.
No.
So when we first went into quarantine for 2 days straight, I played video games. My wife looked at me funny, and I decided to kick it in gear.
No, what you're doing is you're catching up. Like, right, you're catching up with that downtime that you wanted, and
But
you got it now.
all seriousness, I feel like individuals that are utilizing this time to really grow.
Yeah.
You said listening to podcasts, reading books. Those are ways to find mentors, right? Because you don't physically have to know your mentor.
Yes.
I mean, you can have a mentor in a book, or you can have a mentor in a podcast. Anybody that inspires you or influences you is a mentor. So I encourage everyone to take this time, utilize it wisely, grow individuals, and grow yourself. And lastly, we're going to leave it off with Chuck Swindoll's quote. We are all faced with a series of opportunities that are brilliantly disguised as impossible solutions. Every opportunity is surrounded by a problem. Opportunities are never lost. Somebody finds them.
Yes. So right now, if we have any questions, we have some questions.
First question comes from Chief Guest. He says, do you think that through this crisis, our airmen see more or less value in their jobs, more or less desire to be physically at work.
Oh, chief guest. Okay, I see what you did there. So I think that if we set the tone of to our airmen that we're going to go do this mission, we're going to work, I think with the restrictions that they have on being home, they would rather be at work getting the mission done. And I just think that their buy-in is important, and the mission set gives them that. I don't know how you feel about that. I know chief guest try
I feel like
to get me.
this is going to change a lot of things.
Okay.
I really do. When this is all said and done, on the other side of this, things are going to be different. You look at the education system. I mean, people are going to think, hey, going online, doing school, I can do it right here at home. This is easy. Or some people teleworking that are commuting a lot in bigger cities.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of this stuff is going to stick. But on the Air Force side, I feel like there's a little bit of, because of we don't know when it's going to end, it's a little bit of uncertainty. But I also feel like on the other side of things, people are enjoying this time to themselves.
Definitely.
But with, like you said, the mission, sending an airplane out, doing our job, dropping bombs, when you can explain that, like, hey, this is what we're doing, it's for a reason, we're protecting our country, then I think that fires people up.
Yep, definitely. I think that provides that buy-in for those guys. Like, we're still out here working.
For sure.
We're still out here working.
We have a compliment from Christopher Cohen saying that you all look good on camera. I'm enjoying the professional development. I feel the growth mindset coming on. Thanks for taking the time to coordinate this.